It's always interesting to read about the life and some of the behind the scenes of a person whose work you admire. And always better when what you find there is wisdom and, like Sondheim, joy and passion in all their doing of it all. Sondheim doesn't sound like Frank Shepard, his character, who lost himself, betrayed his gift, alienated love and loved ones. In other words, like someone who left a trail of carnage in exchange for some fame or fortune. Of course, like all artists, I'm sure Stephen Sondheim did more than one show he didn't want to, more than one project that left him a little hollow or with some regrets. West Side Story wasn't the only one he talks about or writes about with mixed feelings. And I imagine sometimes you just have to pay the bills, and that's life. But lovely to read about someone who hangs on to the rudder through life, its temptations, its storms. Maybe part of what helped him to do that was the lens that Stephen Sondheim brings to his work, as he did in the last two love songs we just heard, that honesty he has. How often, Mark Sumner observed, you'd hear or read an interview with Stephen Sondheim, and he would start by saying one thing, and by the end of the interview, he would have affirmed the complete opposite of what he said and affirmed at the beginning. Stephen Sondheim seemed immersed in life's both ands, its paradoxes and irony. And maybe that perspective served him well in life. It certainly is part of what many of us love about his art, how it lets us be human. As poet Walt Whitman famously wrote in Song of Myself, "Do I contradict myself? Very well then, I contradict myself. I am large, I contain multitudes." And Whitman, echoing in his words those of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "Speak what you think now in hard words, and tomorrow speak what tomorrow thinks in hard words again, though it contradict everything you said today." These were people who, like Sondheim, I think, saw the self as evolving, always. And that our growth happened when we faced ourselves and the world without fear. And truth was there when we made our peace with the complicated, contradictory depths we might discover. And knowing that this is where the messy, examined life, full throttle, engaged, alive, inevitably would take us, as it had all the bold people who had gone before us. There's a lot of humanity in that vision of life, and a lot of truth, and a lot of grace. So maybe not surprising that for a man for whom life was never simple, never easy, never predictable, at least not for long, that when it came time to tell a fairy tale, that too was going to be complicated and layered. Into the Woods was a mashup of grim fairy tales. Sondheim joined collaborative forces again with James Lapine, and he predicted that this musical was going to have a long life, appealing to school productions and amateur theaters and professional ones too. "I'm surprised to say I was right," he would later say about Into the Woods. It's a show in which everything a character knows is also a little bit not, to quote Red Riding Hood. Where there are giants in the sky, big, tall, terrible, awesome, scary, wonderful giants in the sky. where you head out into the woods and are shown things, valuable things that you hadn't known before. And it is scary and exciting. And you learn nice is different than good. And you're glad you're changed by what you come to know, but also learning all that you come to know, it means the loss of a little bit of innocence, and that is complicated. Which is to say, again, we see life's honest truths, messy, complicated, in Sondheim's honest fairy tale mashup. And maybe it helps us understand our own lives a little more. And also, whenever we recognize our own lives reflected through art, through his art, maybe we know in an embodied sense in those moments that we are not alone, that no one is alone. St. Augustine said, "He who sings prays twice." So let's bring today's service toward its close with a prayer, which is to say, let's sing. I invite you to sing another memorable and true song from Into the Woods, "Children Will Listen." The words are in your order of service, but maybe you already know them by heart.